They said the dorm was haunted, but Clara didn't believe it. Not until the night she heard her own name whispered from the basement, the same basement sealed after 4 girls burned alive 30 years ago. Story 1. The Whispering Room, the Haunted Dorm of Manila. It started with a whisper. Clara hadn't even unpacked her last box when she first heard it. Soft, thin, almost like the wind crawling through the cracks of the old dormitory. But that night, as the lights dimmed and her roommate snored gently in the bed beside her, the whisper came again. Only this time, it said her name. Clara. She sat up. The fan was off. The air was still. Maybe it was just the pipes, she thought, but the voice sounded too human and far too close. Clara was a nursing student at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. She'd moved into this dorm because it was cheap and close to campus, though everyone warned her it used to be a Catholic girls' school before a fire burned down the West Wing in 1983. They rebuilt it, but the locals said something stayed behind. The next night, she heard it again. Clara, come downstairs. Her roommate didn't stir. The hallway light outside their door flickered, painting long shadows through the blinds. Clara told herself not to be stupid, but curiosity, or something darker, pulled her to her feet. Barefoot, she stepped into the corridor. The dorm was silent, except for the hum of an old refrigerator downstairs. The voice echoed faintly, leading her toward the basement, a part of the building the caretakers always kept locked. Yet tonight, the door was slightly open. She hesitated. The air that drifted out was freezing cold, far too cold for Manila's humidity. She pushed the door open with trembling fingers and looked down the stairs. Something moved at the bottom, a faint, flickering orange glow, like a candle. And then the voice again. Clara, hurry. She took a shaky step down. The smell hit her first. Burned wood and something metallic, like old blood. The basement was filled with dust and broken furniture. In the center of the room, 4 charred school desks sat arranged in a circle. Melted shoes clung to their legs. On the walls, black streaks climbed upward like smoke stains. And then she saw them. 4 girls, sitting perfectly still at the desks, their skin cracked and blackened, faces melted but faintly smiling. They turned their heads toward her in unison. Clara froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs. One of them whispered, "You came back." Another reached out a burned hand. "Sit with us." Clara screamed and stumbled backward, slamming into the stairs. The candlelight flared, and all 4 burned faces smiled wider. The door above her burst open. Her roommate, Julia, stood there shouting her name. When she pulled Clara out, the door slammed shut behind them with such force it cracked the frame. They called security, but when the caretaker arrived, the door was locked from the inside. No one could open it. When they finally forced it open the next morning, the basement was empty. No desks, no candle, no bodies. Just a single burned handprint on the wall, and the faint scent of smoke. Clara left the dorm the next day, but every now and then her phone alarm goes off at 2:33 a.m., the same time she first heard the whispers. And when she checks her recording app, she swears she can hear someone breathing softly into the mic, whispering her name. Clara. Story 2. The Dead Caller, Ohio, USA. Imagine getting a call in the middle of the night from your own phone number. That's what happened to Patrick. And the voice on the other end wasn't a stranger. It was himself. The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It was one of those nights where time felt slower, the kind that made the world outside feel dead. Patrick sat alone in his dimly lit cubicle at a Cleveland call center, his shift ending in 20 minutes. Then his phone rang. The display froze him. Incoming call. Patrick. Me. He laughed nervously. Probably a glitch, he thought. Still, his finger hovered over the green button. Curiosity won. Hello? The voice on the other end made his blood run cold. It was his own. "Don't go outside," the voice said quietly. "He's waiting." Patrick's heart hammered. "Who is this?" No answer, just breathing. Then the line went dead. He sat there, frozen, staring at his phone. When he looked up, the fluorescent lights flickered overhead. His computer rebooted itself. He stood and peered out the glass doors at the front lobby, and there, standing in the rain, was a man in a black hoodie staring directly at the building. Patrick turned back to his monitor, and the security feed showed the man's face. It was him, same clothes, same haircut, same face. He ran to the exit to check, but when he opened the door, the figure was gone. Only muddy footprints led inside, straight through the hallway, and stopped at his cubicle. The next morning, the cleaners found his desk overturned, his chair knocked over, and his phone smashed to pieces. The call history showed one last entry. Outgoing call, 3:17 a.m. to Patrick, me. If your phone ever rings with your own number on it, don't answer, because whoever's calling might already be inside. Story 3. The Silent Passenger, Aomori, Japan. In Japan, taxi drivers often pick up passengers who vanish before reaching their destination. But one driver in Aomori discovered where they really go, and he hasn't driven since. Takashi had been a taxi driver for 15 years. He didn't believe in ghosts, though he'd heard the stories. The woman in white, the one who hailed rides near the ocean and disappeared halfway through. It was a foggy night when he saw her. A woman, pale and drenched, standing by the road, her head slightly tilted, one arm raised to flag him down. Her white dress clung to her like wet paper. He pulled over. She climbed in silently, her hair dripping onto the seat. "Where to?" he asked. She whispered an address deep in the countryside. Her voice was soft, echoing as if coming from underwater. They drove in silence. The meter ticked, the wipers squeaked. Takashi glanced in the mirror. She was staring out the window, lips moving as though she were speaking to someone he couldn't see. Halfway there, his radio crackled, static hissing words that formed into a woman's voice. "Why did you leave me?" He turned off the radio, shaking. When he glanced back again, she was gone. The seat was soaked, the air freezing. He pulled over and checked the back seat. Only a faint smell of seawater remained. The next day, he drove to the police station to report it. The officer didn't even look surprised. He opened a drawer and pulled out a photo. "Was it her?" he asked. Takashi's heart dropped. It was the same woman, a tsunami victim who drowned in 2011. Locals call her the Silent Passenger. They say she appears to any driver who refuses to take lost souls home. If you ever find yourself driving alone at night and a passenger vanishes mid-ride, don't look back. Some fares are one-way trips from the other side. Story 4. The Eyes in the Walls, Aberdeen, Scotland. When a couple bought an old farmhouse in Scotland, they thought the walls had water damage, but what they found under the wallpaper was something watching them. Emma and James were newlyweds when they bought the farmhouse. It was a fixer-upper, quiet, remote, with peeling wallpaper and creaky floors. On their third night, Emma noticed a small bulge under the wallpaper, as if the wall was breathing. She pressed her hand against it, and it felt hollow. The next day, they peeled it back. Behind the wallpaper were dozens of tiny holes drilled into the plaster, all perfectly spaced. James held up a flashlight to one of them and froze. Behind the hole, he could see something glistening, like an eyeball reflecting the light. When he looked again, it was gone. That night, they heard scratching behind the walls. The sound moved, from the kitchen to their bedroom, stopping every time they spoke. A week later, a contractor arrived to inspect. When he tore down part of the wall, they found a hidden crawl space. Inside was a small wooden chair, a decayed leather-bound book, and bones the size of a child's hands. The book belonged to a priest who had lived there in the 1800s. His journal spoke of purification rituals, and watching the sinners through the walls. Emma and James left the house that same night. Now, locals say if you drive past the farmhouse, you can see faint candlelight flickering through the cracks. And when the wind's quiet, you'll swear you hear breathing behind the walls. If you ever find holes in your walls that you didn't make, don't cover them up. Something on the other side might still be watching. These weren't just stories. They were warnings, real places, real people, real fear. If you made it this far, you're one of us now, someone who doesn't look away when the lights go out. Subscribe if you dare, because every week we uncover the world's most chilling true horror stories, the kind that stay with you long after the screen goes black. Turn on the bell so you don't miss the next nightmare, and tell me in the comments, which story kept you awake tonight?